Hi there, this is Justin. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a dynamic matrix report in Tableau. Matrix report is really good for showing the performance of different dimensions, and it's a standard view I build for most of my clients, especially those that do email marketing. And since my agency Project BI, we work with e-commerce businesses. They all do email marketing, so yeah, it's a view we're always building for them, and I want to show you how to build it in Tableau. Now, even though I mentioned the matrix view is great for email, you can really use it for showing the performance of any dimension, and you'll see in a second what I mean by that. So I'm just using the Superstore dataset for this example. And what we're going to do is we want to start by taking the dimension we care about and moving it into, into the sheet. So I'm actually going to take product name. There might be too many options here, but let's take product name. I'm going to drag it onto details. So I basically got my, an icon here for each of my products. Then what I want to do is I want to take two measures that I want to use to compare. So if I take, for example, profit ratio, I'm going to drag that onto rows. And then I'm going to take, let's put profit ratio on columns, and then let's take sales and put that on rows. Okay, so now we've got essentially a spatter plot. We've got our profit ratio over here and our sales over here. Now, the next thing I want to do is start making this view dynamic. So I drag these fields into these different locations just to kind of give you an idea of what the view is going to look like. I'm actually going to shrink the size a bit of the circles just because we have a lot. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a parameter. I'm going to call this x-axis. It's the x-axis selector. And we're going to make the string. And now we're going to put in our values. So we have profit ratio, we have sales. Let's do quantity. And let's just take profit. Okay. And I'm going to immediately duplicate this, and I'm going to set this to the y-axis. Okay, we're going to do that. We have equal values. I'm just going to show them just so I can play with them. And now what I'm going to do is come up here. I'm going to create a calculator field. And I'm going to do if. We're just going to essentially do an if loop across all of this. So if x-axis selector equals profit ratio, then profit ratio, else if, now I can just copy. And we have here 4 options. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to go end. We have profit ratio, sales, quantity, we have sales, quantity, and the last one was profit. Okay, we need to change our values here, so this is going to be sales, so the quantity, and then we have profit. Okay, now we get an error here, just because can't mix aggregate and non-aggregate. So basically got to deal with that. So profit ratio is probably, let's see, profit ratio over here is a calculator field with, you can see some profit, some sales. So I can actually just, well, I'm not gonna change that, but this is an aggregate while these aren't. So let's go ahead and just do sum of sales sum quantity and sum profit, and that should deal with this little conflict. Great. Now what I'm going to do is just keep my naming conventions consistent. So this is x-axis selector calc. I like to add the word calc as a calculator field. Save that. Now I'm going to duplicate it. And this is going to be our y-axis. Notice what I'm doing. I've created two selectors to control the x and y axis. And now I'm making calculator fields which are going to change the value based on what we pick in our selectors. Right, so now this is for the y-axis. So we're just going to drag the y-axis up here. And notice Control C, Control V, just to save time. It's copy pasting. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my x-axis. It's going to be the x-axis selector. It's going to come up here to my columns, right? And my y-axis selector is going to come to my rows. And now we both have profit ratio, so therefore it's going to be, you know, a straight line. But we want to go with profit ratio versus sales. Okay, so now our axes are dynamic. Go ahead and get rid of the titles, just because it's not very helpful to have them. We can add dynamic labels next to our axes in the dashboard. I don't know if I'm going to get that far in this video. The next thing what we can do is we can actually make the dimension dynamic, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create my parameter. I'm going to call this dimension selector. String, we have product name, and we have customer name. Just going to keep it simple for now. Let's show parameter. There's customer name and we have product name, right? So come up here again, same concept. If dimension selector equals product name, then product name. Else, you could just do else, but I actually prefer to write the whole thing out. Equals customer name, then customer name, and right. This is a very kind of common, you know, combination, parameter plus calculator field, to switch out dimensions or measures. You do this a lot when building dashboards in Tableau. So now we've got our calculator field, our dimension selector calc, and now what we can do is drag this over here. Okay, now product name is what we had before, but if I do customer name, notice it changes, right? If I hover over, I've got my customer name, product name, get my product name. Okay, now what I want to do is, I guess, one more parameter plus calculator field is to change the color of the circles, right? So let's try and do, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So call this color selector now, string list. What are we going to do? We have to decide if we want to do it by a measure or by dimension. I think we do it by dimension. So let's go ahead with, well, it's just thinking out loud here, because if we have customer and product, it's a question of what segment we can use, because a customer can buy multiple products. You always got to remember the granularity of your data, right? So let's just make one which is only going to affect the product. Okay, it's not something you would typically do, but it's a nice little challenge. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to do color selector. Remember, we have you know, the product we care about. So we're going to talk about, first of all, we want none as our first option, just so there's no color. that all the circles are colored the same. Then we want to have category, because a product fits into one category. We're going to do sub category, and let's do segment. I think segment will affect product. Okay, so let's do that, show it, and then once again we're going to come up here, if color selector equals none, then, and since we've got a string here, we're just going to do empty string. Else if, just going to copy paste to save some time. We've got 4 options, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know we have category, I know we have subcategory, and we have segment. Okay, so this is segment, this is subcategory, this is category. Okay, we need an end, and now we have another parameter calculated field pair. Okay, and I can drag this now onto color. And as we expect, the color didn't change because we have none selected. If we do category, now our circles are affected, right? Different colors. On the dashboard, it will obviously show the legend. I always forget where that is. I think it's down here. No. Legends, color legend. There we go. Category. Right. And then once again, right, our X and Y axis are completely dynamic. We can see outliers really easily, right? So in terms of quantity and profit ratio, we see here that staples are, which are office supplies, have a high profit ratio and a high number of the quantity of sales of units sold is high. So what else can we do in this view? There's another nice little trick. It's been a while since I've done it, but I just want to show you that it's feasible. So what I want to do is create a parameter which is x-axis, I guess we can call it x-axis line selector. Let's see. Okay, so this is going to be, we need it as a float. And I guess we'll leave it at 0.5. Just bear with me for a second. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to add a reference line. And the value is going to be my parameter. Okay, notice I now have a line which is dynamic to this parameter. Okay, now watch what we're going to do. We're going to make it dotted. I want it to be, let's make it actually red. Okay. Dotted, or striped rather. And we're going to do that. We're going to format. Let's get rid of the shading. The label none. Well, the label is going to be the value. Okay. Format. We're going to place the value. Let's put it at the top. Okay. Format. Let's make this black. 8 bold. Okay. Now what we're going to do, that's the x-axis. We're going to do the same thing for the y-axis. Okay, duplicate. You'll see in 2 minutes why this is a really cool thing to do. Okay. Now we're going to keep sales here. So let's just do 25,000. This is, I guess, one issue of having like a float and integer, because you're going to have weird cases where, you know, if you switch between profit ratio and sales and it's at 0.5, you're going to have a line all the way down here. But I don't think it's the end of the world. So let's do that. Now we come up here, add our reference line, Y. We're going to do dotted again. We're going to do red. Okay. The value, going to do that. And I think for this one, we just keep it over here. Let's format this. Black, 8, bold. Okay, looking good. Now what I can do as well, we have our color selector here, but another little trick we can do is the following. I'm going to create a calculator field, and I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say if. Okay, now let me just think about this for a second. Yeah, if this value is greater or equal, this is x-axis, to this, and this value, put on a new line, is greater or equal to this, then we can just run good, or let's just do positive, else negative, and that should do it. Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to do color positive versus negative y-axis. Okay, I don't know if I spelled that right, but just for the demo. Okay, now watch this. Okay, we now have this new dimension. What I can do is another approach is I can put this onto color, and what I'm going to do is put negative in red. And now watch what I do here. If I change this, so you notice we have it 0.5 and 25. So anything that's greater than 0.5 and greater than 25 would be in this quadrant over here. But there's nothing there, right? So let's go ahead and change this for a second. Okay, now it's difficult to see, but you've got some orange here because now we have positive values. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to change my positive to green. And now what I can do is I have two axes that I can play with to find dimensions which fit within the criteria that I care about. So let's just say I want all products which are profitable and I've had at least $10,000 worth of sales. So here I put 0 for my x-axis, I put 10,000 for my y-axis, and now I've got all these green circles, right? I could even do something like funky like this. So I'm going to take the positive negative onto size. Okay, and it actually did it automatically for me. So look at that. So what I've got now is my positives are very big circles and my negatives are very small circles, right? See that pretty clearly here. And it's completely dynamic, right? So if I play with the numbers, my circles will change. And that's basically it. It's a dynamic matrix where I can dynamically switch between different dimensions that I can map to the parameters and to the parameter and calculator field. And whatever measures I have available to me, I can also make it dynamic. And then I've got this really awesome matrix where I can answer lots of different questions. And it's a highly usable and business friendly type view where different stakeholders can come in here and just start playing with the parameters and answer all the different questions they have. I mean, to expand on this, you could even add this to a dashboard and set it up in such a way that all the positive values would be displayed as a table right underneath the graph. Alternatively, you just told them that they can create they can, you explain to the user through text or like a training session that they can hover over different circles and that would populate a table. Or alternatively, they just select what they want and then they can, export the list out. Anyway, I think that's enough in this video. If you found this valuable, please hit the like button and let me know in a comment below. If you have any questions on this topic or would like to see future videos that expand on this concept, then also let me know via a comment below the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.